Hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining me in this really busy holiday season. Really appreciate it. I usually start out with talking about our So Confident program, and I am going to do that for 2022, but you have to stay tuned because I'm going to do it at the end. But I do want to remind you that there is still time to sign up for the December 2021 Valencia pants class. And here's an example of the pants that we make in the class. And we're using a polyester crepe, which has the look of 4-ply silk or really, really expensive, high-end, beautiful silk, but for a fraction of the price. We have some kits available, but part of what you're going to learn in this class is how to sew a fabric like this to get a really refined look. And I'm not going to go into detail, but one of the things you're going to need for this class, or if you are not interested in this class but still need a pair of pinking shears, this is the brand of pinking shears that I like. I, several years ago, ordered in 3 or 4 brands of pinking shears. And I tested all of them for weight and balance and ease of cutting and dimension of cutting and all of that. And these are by Havel, Havel. So if you're interested in a little treat for yourself for Christmas or Hanukkah, treat yourself to a pair of pinking shears, but you're definitely going to want a nice pair of pinking shears to make the Valencia pants if you join us for the class. So that's number 1. A few years ago, maybe 3 years ago, Alex, my daughter, bought me a subscription to my favorite pencil company. I love pencils. I don't really care what color they are, what size they are, what shape the erasers are in, but I am particularly fond of Blackwing pencils. And what she bought was a subscription called Volumes. So 4 times a year, Blackwing comes out with signature and one-of-a-kind, limited edition pencils. Well, I think Alex has forgotten that this subscription goes on unless you cancel it. So I hope that just by hearing this today, Alex, you're not going to cancel the subscription, but I'm still getting it. And so 4 times a year, I get this wonderful package, and it has a box of 12 pencils. And it also has a little vial that has the limited edition pencil in it so that you can collect these and keep them. So mine arrived a few days ago. Thank you, Alex, for my Christmas present. And there's always a story with it. The pencils are in commemoration of something in our creative culture. And this month's or this quarter's is all about Corita Kent. Now, I remembered I'd heard the name, but I wasn't really too sure about where, and so I read about Corita Kent. There is a website called corita.org, and it's really interesting to read about this woman who was a nun, and she was an artist. And she would do these very edgy political statement type pieces of art, and she was controversial within the Catholic Church, but they appreciated her talents and they allowed her to be the chair of the art department of the Immaculate, I should know this, Immaculate Heart College in Los Angeles. One of the things that she did for her students was ask them to use a small viewfinder. Now, if you're a painter, you know what a viewfinder is. It isolates your vision so that you're looking at something in a different way. And so what was produced by her students were just tons and tons of drawings that taught the students how to slow down and see the world with a fresh perspective. So along with my pencils came a little viewfinder, which I thought was terribly cute. So at any rate, if you're looking for a last-minute gift for someone who loves pencils, Blackwing.com is a fantastic gift for $99 a year. You get, what's 12 times 4? 48 pencils, plus you get actually 52 pencils, plus stories, plus little gadgets. packaged beautifully, and it's really, really fun because you never know what's coming. Well, all of that reminded me of a woman who I had known for a long time. And Lois Erickson was a really interesting textile artist, made clothes. She was all into that sort of art to wear movement that was happening back in the 80s and 90s and 2000s. And in her book called The Great Put On, which, by the way, you can still get, it's aged in a way that's still wonderful, actually, but she was a self-published author. So her books are not super sophisticated, but the information in them is really current and valuable, and I think you would really enjoy her books. But on one of the pages in this book, under design, is all about making a design window, and it reminded me of a viewfinder. So what she had you do was take a little illustration of the pattern that you're interested in making and actually cut out the shape of the garment on a piece of cardstock, index card, tag board, whatever. And then find an image. It could be something in a magazine, like a landscape, or an architectural element, or just shapes and colors, and put this little viewfinder or design window, move it around until you come up with some sort of a pleasing design. So if you're not an artist and you're interested in collaged garments, appliqued garments, pieced garments, think about this method of coming up with design ideas because I think it's brilliant. And so I go from viewfinder to design window with Lois Erickson to remembering that I have a very interesting jacket. Now, some years ago, my husband and I went to New York. We always used to meet Nancy Schreiber and her husband in New York for a little holiday getaway. And we walked into Koos Van Den Akker's showroom and studio on Madison Avenue. And I think it was about 92nd or something like that, Madison Avenue in New York. And I, at the time, really didn't know much about Koos Van Den Akker, but I was incredulous when I walked in. The first floor of this small shop was just full of his one-of-a-kind collaged garments. And I go upstairs, and here he is in his studio with all of his fabrics and his sewing machines and his assistant, and you can see how these garments that he produced were made. Well, I tried on a few things, and I have to say they were pretty pricey, and so we left. And 3 weeks later, Christmas rolls around, and my husband had called back and gotten one of the jackets that I had tried on, and this is it. So this is vintage, I consider, now. I don't know how many years ago this was. I'm going to say maybe 15 or so. But I have loved this jacket from the moment that I saw it. So Koos Van Den Akker is an interesting designer. He's one of those designers that kind of marries pure couture, because this is really well done, with kind of sheer fantasy. And he was always inventing techniques, like he would pull a yarn out of a fabric and braid it or couch it and use the yarn from that piece of fabric and then pull more yarns out of it and make a plaid out of the fabric. He would cut leather and make it into what looked like lace. He would knit with chiffon and apply pockets and edges and fringes and so forth. You may remember him because if you ever watched the Bill Cosby show and saw the sweaters that Cosby wore, those were always his sweaters. And that's really what put him on the map as a big-time designer. There have been lots of articles about him in Threads magazine. And by the way, I always treat myself to the Threads Insider. What do they call it? Threads Insider, I guess is what they call it. And what's great about it is I now have access to the complete library and history of Threads articles. So it's been worth the money to do that, and I encourage you to do it. And so I was looking for information about Koos Van Den Akker, and I was able to go to the Threads library, and there are a number of interviews and articles about him and his techniques, and it's really, really interesting. So check that out. But a friend of mine, Linda Tufel, she and I were ambassadors for Bernina a few years ago, many years ago actually, and she wrote a book about Koos. And again, this book has an age to it. I'm going to see when she published it. 2002, not that long ago actually. But it's called Couture Collage. And in my mind, that really sums up his work. And it sums up what is interesting about this particular jacket. So let me just talk about some of the things that are interesting about this jacket. First of all, I was also reminded that in my recent move, you run upon things that you have totally forgotten about. And I found a sack of old fur collars and cuffs and things that my mother had saved from the one or two furry things that she owned in her lifetime. And for some reason, I have those bits and pieces of fur. So obviously, he incorporates fur, whether it's real fur or faux fur. I don't think it really matters. But you can see these really interesting shapes, from just a pure circle to a half circle to the meandering circles. But all of these are surrounded by and held down by bias tape, single fold bias tape. All of these elements are appliqued to a wool jacket. Basically, you make a jacket and then you embellish it. Here's a piece of ultra suede that has a leaf shape to it that's stitched down over a piece of plastic, some kind of blue, something kind of a rainwear sort of something or other. Remember the days when we were doing the chenille techniques, where you apply a fabric on top of another fabric, you stitch it in channels, and then you cut between the stitching, and you use some sort of a stiff brush to raise the edges. I realized after studying this that these are on the bias, so it's interesting that the edges are ruffled. What I liked about this, instead of the several layers of fabric as we used to do this years ago, and having multiple layers of fluffy edges, this is one layer, and it's also not over the whole thing. So it stops and starts, and there are holes in it, and the bias binding, or the single fold bias, also breaks that up a little bit as well. The entire jacket is bound in French binding, very beautifully done, with some tubes of the same fabric as the buttonholes. Here is what I'm talking about with some of the yarn that may or may not have been pulled from another fabric, and this has been couched over. Now here you have a piece of chiffon over the wool fabric. It looks like this plastic in terms of color, but this one has been channel stitched horizontally through the chiffon onto the background of this jacket. And this jacket is so heavy, my arm is getting tired, so I'm going to shift. So here's more of the chenille. You can see a little bit better the bias binding that is surrounding some of these fur pieces. This is an interesting design. So Lois Erickson comes to mind. If you're interested in doing something like this, then use that viewfinder kind of concept. Find some designs that you're interested in. Go to some of your art books and look at paintings and put that viewfinder or the design window over some of those kinds of images, and you'll be amazed what will just come to your mind in terms of where to start. I think we get stuck. We love the idea of art to wear and piecing and applique and all of that, but we don't know where to start. And I think those windows are a really great way to do that. So I thought I would show you today how to do this bias binding. I actually had fun doing this yesterday, and I wish now that I had done it on a whole piece to get ready for my jacket, which I now intend to make. But I did it on a small sample, and I hope I did it in a color that you can actually see. But this is just a plain piece of wool, And this is some nice cotton that I cut in 1-inch strips, actually just a hair less than 1 inch, because I wanted to have finished binding bias binding that is 1/2 inch wide. So I knew I had one of these bias tape makers in my stash someplace. Of course, do you think I could find it last week? Of course not. So I went to the local quilt store here in Topeka and bought this one. And the minute I came to the office, I found my old one. Well, I thought it was pretty interesting. Same company, same label, same tool, so to speak. I mean, it's labeled the same, bias tape maker, but they're now designed differently. This is old and this is new. So I started by using my old one, thinking, well, I know how to use the old one. You put the pointed end of your strip that's been cut on the bias through this, and it feeds out, and you're holding the iron as you're pulling this, and you're just following the edge of this, and it creates this folded bias. Well, I had a little bit of trouble on this, keeping it even. And so I said, well, I'll try this tool. And for whatever reason, I had no trouble with this one. And I can't tell you why. I don't know that I'm telling you to go out and buy this if you own this, but if you don't own one at all, look for this one, because it really does work really, really well. So I cut out my fur, and of course I was working on the wrong side of the faux fur. So that I could draw my circle, I just took a dish and drew around it with pencil and cut from the back side. And then I took my little trimming scissors and just kind of trimmed out some of the fur from the edge, about 1/4 inch of the edge, just so that when I applied this bias, I wasn't going to just be sewing through quite the thickness of the whole fur. So I used my zipper foot. Oh, first of all, I glued the fur down using 505 temporary spray adhesive. You could use any brand of spray adhesive. I knew that I couldn't press this, so I couldn't use Fusey Web or one of those kinds of products. So I just put a big piece of paper on my ironing surface and sprayed it, and it glued down and stayed perfectly. So I just started about right here with my zipper foot and moved my needle position over to the left as far as it would go, and I stitched real close to the edge, and it just caught easily through the fur and held it down. I purposely didn't finish it so that, well, because I hadn't figured that out yet, but mostly I wanted you to see how it was done. And then I came around, then I steamed this just a little bit, because bias, you know, will shape. It'll form, which is why you want to cut bias if you're putting this around some sort of a curved shape. If you're not putting it around a curved shape, then of course this can be cut on the straight of grain, which probably is a little bit easier to handle, but the curve is what I wanted. So then I started and moved my needle position to the opposite side, completely over to the right, and stitched on the very edge of this. And this was so much fun. I don't know, it didn't take me any time at all. I thought it would be real fussy and I'd be frustrated and, you know, oh my gosh, I want to show this and it's going to be a disaster. But actually it was just loads of fun. So it made me realize that I want to use some faux fur and do some more of this work and do a little Koos jacket a la sewing workshop at some point. So any questions about any techniques yet so far or anything? Okay, great. All right, so I have pulled together a whole range of fabrics that I think would be fantastic to work into a jacket. And I started out by choosing the furs. We have 3 or 4 furs, and I'm going to show you something before I move on. The fur. This is the fur that I just used on the sample. I'm going to put this on because this jacket is so fantastic. The jacket is the Crossroads jacket. It's part of 2020's lineup of So Confident that we still have we have the pattern available to anyone, but look at this fantastic jacket. Is this not the cutest thing? I know everybody's afraid of fur, but really it's so easy to sew with. You just get it out of the seam allowances either by cutting it away in the seam allowances, trimming it. There are even little like razors that you can buy that actually just go along the seam allowance and get rid of the fur. Or you just tape the fur away from the seam allowance, sew it up, and then using some kind of a stiff brush or knitting needle or something like that, you just kind of pick out some of the fur. So it's super easy to make. So anyway, I wanted to show you this. Anyway, I started by looking at the furs, and then I decided I would put together 2 different schemes, adding some plaids, some wools, and some novelty fabrics. And when it was all said and done, when I put it up on the wall yesterday, I realized that these 2 schemes, they all work together. So I don't know what I was thinking, but I'm going to show you both. All right, so I started over here with this particular fur. Now this fur is interesting because it's not fur all over. There is a knit backing in a black and white knit tweed that's actually somewhat, I wouldn't call it sheer, but it's like a netting, like a heavy, slubby netting. And then this fur is woven into it. But of course, I would love a whole jacket in this, and I'm not sure why I haven't made one because I've been admiring this for a while. But even if you just got a little bit of it and used it for these appliques, it would really be fun. So then I pulled out, well, you see, I had this all backwards. So I'm just going to go through it. I honestly had a 2-sided thing, and now that I realize the way I hung it backwards. Doesn't matter. All right, so then you choose a wool plaid. This already has some design to it. You can run this on the bias. You can run it any direction that you want. That's the beauty of collage. Or this could be the complete jacket that you're appliquing over so that some of these motifs are showing through. Some of these stripes and color changes are coming through behind what you're appliquing over it. Here is a dark green, like Melton wool, but this is a wool blend, but it has a beautiful, beautiful finish to it. Has a nap, makes a great coat, but also, again, dark hunter blue-green for some appliques or the base of the jacket again. Now this is a leather-like, this happens to be a polyester, but this is like a laser cut polyester. So it reminded me of the Koos Van Den Akker of cutting out leather to make lace. So that's a little bit what this is. This is a gray polyester, it has some stretch to it, which is neither here nor there for what we're doing here in terms of applique, but you could put this over another color and perk that up if you wanted to. These kinds of paisleys, and this happens to be a silk, this would be a beautiful just insertion so that you're not really seeing a particular motif, you're just seeing color and shape coming through. And then this is a piece of embossed, sort of like moleskin, only very, very, very light. So it has a suede-like finish to it. It'd be beautiful as an applique, but it would also be really cool as the binding and the outline for everything. This one is the fur that I have been referring to for the Crossroads jacket and the little circle. The pile is not super deep on this, so it's pretty easy to work with, actually. But I loved it with this plaid, this gorgeous maroon and gray and neutral plaid. Put it with some black, same Melton-like wool blend. And then I found this wonderful rayon that just pulls in all the colors. And this could be also the bias, or it could be an overshape, something that you quilt through. You know, it doesn't matter what the weight of the fabric is, because you can always alter the character of it by either interfacing it, backing it, or stitching over something, stitching it to something else. Kind of Chanel-like, you know how we make Chanel jackets by sewing the boucle fabric over the lining fabric? It's the same kind of concept. And then this is just just weird enough to be fantastic. This is a cotton, I believe, maybe a little bit of silk in it too. Cotton and silk, somewhat sheer. Oh my gosh, I can imagine either maybe even cutting out some of the shapes and appliquing it, or using it with some channel stitching, or placing it on the garment and doing your bias binding through it, so you're cutting up the design a little bit. And then put that with this stripe, which happens to be a knit. So here we have knit and sheer and rayon challis and fur and wool. Here's another fur that's really fun, that's already sort of blended with gray and white. And when I stood back and looked at the wall, I realized all of it worked together, and I didn't really have necessarily two different looks. So and the other thing that he used, of course, is ultra suede. So we sell ultra suede, a few colors, in quarter yard pieces. It's about 60 inches wide, 60 inches by 9 inches. We also have that we were using for handles, actually, for our village bags, but we have some sets of some textured ultra suede as well. So anyway, all of these textures are exactly what Koos Van Den Akker would have used. And I'm sure, and I know because I was there, his studio was just packed with all of these oddball things that you may or may not have used singularly, but when put all together, it was a really strong statement and an artistic statement. So what we've done for this week is we were able to manipulate our website just a little bit, so that rather than having to buy a yard of any of these, you can buy a half a yard. And so you have something to work with, but you don't have too much of the fabric either. So I hope you like this array. I had a good time putting it together. I don't know, I've got to figure out which one I'm going to use and which ones I'm going to do, but I'm looking forward to making my Koos Van Den Akker jacket. So, any questions now?
The fur jacket, what is it lined with?
This is lined with, I'm sure it's Bimberg, but I should check. Yes, this is a very classic Bimberg rayon lining. We carry a lot of colors of lining, but it is lined with Bimberg, which you want to do on this kind of fur. Otherwise, you're going to have white fur on everything you wear underneath it.
What's the content of the furs?
The furs are polyester. I think they're all polyester. We get the polyester. We get these furs from this wonderful company in Belgium, and it takes us a while to get them, but they're really, really, really nice.
Have you ever seen the Koos Vogue patterns?
Yes, I should have mentioned that. There have been at least 3 Vogue patterns by Koos. And I don't know that they're still in the line, but you can get them. You can find them. Yeah. In fact, I even have the numbers written down, I think, or I did. I don't think I have it up here. Let's see, maybe I do. No, I don't. But yeah, I know of 3, and there may be more.
See, what pattern for the base jacket? What pattern could you use?
Yeah, so there are 2 patterns that I think are really great for the base jackets. I think the Crossroads jacket. Now, the Crossroads in the pattern, this is the Crossroads, in the pattern is longer. And it's already cut up in some segments for you if you choose to keep that. We tape the segments together to make this particular jacket. But the Crossroads, to me, was the most like this jacket. It's basically the same shape. In fact, it's probably the same shape. And then I also thought that it would be good to use the Chicago jacket pattern as a possibility. And I brought this one out only because I had taken the pocket pieces, which are normally on the inside of the jacket, and put them on the outside. So that's an opportunity for some patching. and added some patches down the front. This is nothing like, of course, a Koos thing, but the shape is good for what you want to do, and there are not a lot of seams to this jacket, which is, I think, what you want. You want a good foundation and base for the work you're going to do.
And someone said that there's still patterns in vogue, and also Julio Caesar was a student of his and also had some patterns with Vogue that are like that.
Okay.
Do you mind putting on the Koos jacket?
No, I'd love to. This jacket is heavy, and this is the jacket I wear when it's really cold. So it was like it was made for me.
Okay, can you go through some of the other fabrics and say what the content
Sure.
is?
All right, so this is polyester. This is silk and rayon. I'm sure this is polyester and spandex. Polyester. I don't have the tag on these, but these are wool. They're 100% wool.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But the plaids have something else in them, I believe. Don't they, or do they?
I think they're a blend, and I can't
They're a
remember
blend, and I'm
what
not
they are.
sure. Again, I don't have the tags up here. Mostly wool with a little something else. So wool, polyester, wool, wool, polyester, rayon. What did I say? Silk and cotton? Silk and cotton, and rayon, and a little poly.
Okay. And then the next questions are about your off-white jacket.
Ah,
so
well, that's
might be
next.
a good segue.
Good segue. All right. So let's put the off-white jacket on. So you all know that I talk about So Confident continually because it is our sewing program that we invest a lot of time and energy and money into as well. And So Confident is a program that is now in its 11th year, which is, when I think about it, pretty remarkable. Started out as a series of PDF print-out tutorials, and last year we switched to video format, and that will continue for 2022. So every month I produce a video, and we take you through the making of a garment. The very first garment in January of 2022 is this jacket. And it's called the Sterling Jacket. And the kits that we're offering, there are 5 colorways. The natural that I have on, the auburn that you see on the wall. There's a beautiful navy, kind of tone-on-tone blue. This is a matelassé cotton. Super comfortable, easy to sew, doesn't wrinkle. Wear it year-round. Olive green, black. So we have 5 colors, natural and auburn. And so on January 7th, if you sign up, you receive an email from us with the materials list and how to prepare for the class, what you'll need, what pattern, what materials, the notions. And then you also receive the video that you can watch from start to finish anytime that you want for the rest of your life, how to make this garment. Now, one of the interesting features that I'm going to be talking about in the first video on this is how to get a really perfect rolled hem edge. This entire garment is finished with a rolled hem on a serger. I realize that not everybody owns a serger or even wants to deal with a serger. So we do have options for other kinds of hemming for this, so don't fear. But I talk about the construction from start to finish and then how to finish the garment. So that is January. February is the coordinating pants. And this is basically a variation of the Hudson pants. I have them on as well. But we are adding this detail at the bottom, and that will be part of what you will learn in the class, how to adapt a pattern that normally has darts in the front and back, and how to add these overlapping detail. We also talk about how to add a pocket to the Hudson pants, a side seam pocket. And then March is a new t-shirt that has a boat neck, and it's a two-piece finish on the binding. Narrow binding, but it does cross over at the shoulder. So that's different. And it has this interesting seaming in the back. Now, the actual fabrics that we're going to use for this are, it's a viscose rayon, but they'll be the same color but a different texture, a rib rayon in the center. This one doesn't have it because this is more of a prototype for us. But the first 3 months are a coordinated, well, you can't see that. A coordinated ensemble in 5 colorways. Now we have interesting colors that are going along with these 5 colors. We have red and pink and gold and green and blue. And so I think we've tried to cover the basis, but the whole palette for the first 3 months is fairly, I call it earthy, although that's not really true with the black and the red and the white and all that. But nevertheless, it's a toned down grouping of fabrics, and we'll have options as well along the way. So then we get into April, and that's what we call a bonus month, where we take one of those 3 patterns and we do something with it creatively. And that's another video, but it's not a new pattern for you. If you've purchased the year, you will have gotten one of the patterns, and so we're going to do something with that, and I'm not going to tell you exactly what yet. Then we get into the whole year of wardrobing, from blouse, using that pattern to make a dress. We have a skirt. We have another kind of more fitted tailored pants, a coat, a couple more bonus months in there. But it's if you've been a member for a long time or this last year, you know that the videos come out and you have a materials list, and there's a Facebook page that's a private community, and people are really active on that, and it's really fun to see what they do. Plus there's a monthly Q&A session that's live with me, and I'm answering your questions and we're sharing information. And so it's a full-on program of creating a wardrobe for the entire year. Now, there currently are 3 ways to sign up. You can sign up and become a yearly subscriber. So between now and January 7th, you can sign up for the annual price is $425, but you get 10% off before January 7th, which I think makes it like $380, $250 or something like that. Then you're done. You've paid for it for the whole year. You get your 12 projects, your 12 Q&As, your 12, access to the Facebook page, all of that. You're done. Plus you get 15% discount on fabrics and patterns and kits and other sales and giveaways. Now, what we've been able to add this year to our website is a monthly payment option. So you sign up now before January 7th, but you can be billed by the month for $39.99 every month. It's a 12-month commitment. You can only sign up for this option before January 7th. Once January 7th comes, this option goes away. And then you can sign up by the month if there's a particular project that you're really intrigued with and you want to sign up for that. Then you can sign up for a month, 4 months, 12 months, whatever, but that's going to be $49.99. So we're encouraging you to sign up now before January 7th, before the first release of the first project, and we are ready to go. Now, remember, it's the holidays, and so you need to maybe ask someone for your membership. We've had a few husbands call and sign up, and if a husband or a loved one or a friend or a daughter or whoever signs you up, we are going to need some information from you to make sure we have your account set up, and we can do that after Christmas or after you receive the gift. But nevertheless, gift time.
Okay, you ready for questions?
I am.
So confident?
Yes.
Okay. The t-shirt that you're wearing, what is that?
Well, this happens to be the Eureka shirt with long sleeves.
Okay. All right. When will we be able to order the Sterling jacket?
The Sterling jacket will be on our website January 7th.
Okay. The jacket fabrics are beautiful. Will they be available to purchase not in a kit? And are the kits available now?
The kits are not available now. They'll be available the first week in January, and you will not be able to order the fabric separately. It's kit only purchase.
So if you join So Confident, does it include the patterns?
The patterns are not included in So Confident. In the lineup of patterns, there are, I'm not sure I'm quoting this correctly, but maybe 3 patterns that are existing patterns, and people already may or may not have them. And so we separate the pattern purchases as separate, so that if you have it, you don't get it again and don't have to pay for it. But there are new patterns as well. Some download, some print, kind of going back and forth on that. We're still gearing up for our printing process with the new company. So the Sterling, for example, will be printed at some point, but not in time.
Will all the colors be shown in January for these 3 items?
Yes, all of the colors will be shown in January with the accompanying pants and t-shirts.
Will you be able to get the kits for all 3 items?
Yes, you'll be able to, you'll be able to order them. Now, we still have back orders on 2 of the colors of the t-shirts for March. We may or may not have them in January. If not, you can order them, but we'll have to ship them later. But yes, you'll be able to order them. I'm saying that right, aren't I?
Yes.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can we see the red for the tee in March?
Oh, I have just a tiny little piece, but yes.
So now you're seeing kind of the black kit with the red tee, and then the other was the navy, right?
Yeah, here's the navy with the blue.
Mm-hmm. And I guess you could show the other one too while you're at it.
Yeah, might as well. Got it up here. So here's the green with the green gold shirt, the white. We have a sea blue-green option, and the auburn has the pink with it, the dusty pink.
Will we get an actual video, or is it online? It'll be an online video. It's not something we mail, if that's maybe what the question is about.
Yeah, the video is online in your account to be watched whenever.
Right.
Yeah.
I hope that clarifies that.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Does the 15% discount apply to everything you buy, or only what you buy for the class?
It applies to everything that you buy all year long.
Kits, fabrics,
Patterns. Kits, fabrics, and patterns. It does not, we do not apply it to events, notions,
books, other So Confident,
other So Confident, other tutorials.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Are patterns included with any of the payment plans?
No, patterns are not included with this program. That's a separate purchase, whether it's monthly or yearly. Yeah.
Will all 3 patterns be available in January so we can get them printed all at once?
No. Well, the Hudson will be, but the t-shirt we're not done with.
What are the sizes for the Sterling?
Extra small to XXL. I have on a medium today. I had on and this is a small, which I also wear, and I can also wear an extra small. So
you can do that. What content are the plaids?
The plaids are linen, 100% linen that we get from England. They're really, really nice. They're kind of rumpled, soft. They don't wrinkle because they're already softened, kind of a washed linen.
Can you mix color combinations such as an ivory jacket and a red t-shirt?
Absolutely.
Those will be separate, like you...
Yes, you're going to buy each kit separately. You can mix all you want. And there are some really interesting mixing opportunities in this.
How much will a kit be?
Oh, they vary, and I don't know that we know that exactly. Our kits last year ranged from 60 to 80 to 90 to 125, depending on what the fiber was, how much the quantity is, what other notions are included, whether it was elastic. They're always including thread, but sometimes it was buttons. Buttons are included with the jacket pattern. We've ordered special buttons for this. You'll get 4 spools of thread for the serging on the jacket pattern. For the pants, you get elastic and thread. For the t-shirt, you get thread. So that's, yeah, it's all inclusive, what you need to sew it up.
Okay, I don't see any other Sew Confident questions, but there are a couple questions about the rest of the presentation.
Okay.
Let's see. Is the pile of the cream faux fur the same depth as the coat in cream faux?
Yes.
Oh, they're the same fabric.
This fabric, this coat is this fabric. And the depth is half an inch maybe.
Okay, and there was a question about the Koos coat.
Okay.
It was about the sleeve. Let me find it. It was about the bias. The sleeves are the sleeves on the bias, and can Linda talk about bias as an option for sleeves?
The sleeves are on the bias, and we noted this the other day when I brought this in. There's a couple of interesting things about this sleeve. See, the body of the jacket is wool that's been pieced, but the sleeves not only are cut on the bias, but they're also lined with silk, and it's stitched together on the diagonal. So that means the stitching is on the straight of grain. Now, there are a lot of couture sleeves cut on the bias, and when you have a sleeve that's cut on the bias, then it's more comfortable because it moves with you. And so I think it's mostly comfort. In this case, for him, it might have been design. I'm not sure, because he might have wanted it on the diagonal. But for sure, it's a more comfortable sleeve because of the ability to move in it. So the slimmer the sleeve, the more apt you want to put it on the bias if you're making a suit, for example. A lot of Armani sleeves, because they're very narrow, are cut on the bias. Dior sleeves are cut on the bias. So if you really study really, really high-end ready-to-wear, you're going to see a lot of bias cut sleeves in couture. Home sewers tend not to do it, but we used to teach it in tailoring all the time when we were teaching more tailoring classes in San Francisco.
Okay, there's a few more Sew Confident questions now. One, can we see all the options again for the colorways?
Okay, sure. So the natural that I have on, and we've paired it with a sort of bluey greeny. There's black, and we've paired it with red with black and white check pants. Auburn, not auburn, olive, paired with some gold. The blue navy is paired with a pale blue-gray. And the auburn, you can see, is paired with the pink. There's a definite right and wrong side to this matelassé. And you probably could choose one over the other. I think there's definitely a right side, but there's a side where the motifs are lighter and I consider that the right side, or it's reversed. That's what a double weave or a jacquard weave does. It reverses the strength of color for particular motifs. So either side can be used, but in theory, if there is a theory about this, this is the right side.
And since you have that jacket out, or can you get that jacket out again? It asked about some details of the jacket. Can you point out, the placket, the collar, that
All
sort of
right,
thing?
so it has these applied plackets. That's the word I'm after. So this is a placket, and this is a placket that gets sewn to the front, and you can see it's extended beyond the front just a little bit. And the buttonholes go completely through both layers. Then there's a flounce. So there's a seam here, and this begins to be on the bias here and there. This is the same detailing as our Quincy jacket. This is not a shoulder line. This is in from the shoulder, I don't know, it depends on who you are and where you wear it, but your shoulder's about out here. And this is in, and then there's a seam here. So this little shape right here is a wedge, sort of peplum, I'll call it. The sleeve is shaped and has 2 darts that bring it in to make it more narrow. It has a double collar, so this is 2 layers of collar, and the whole outer edge is roll hemmed. There's a little seam in the back of the flounce.
So someone asked, could the buttonholes be hidden?
Sure. You could engineer this so that this is not sewn together here. Well, let's see. I don't know if that would work. You could create probably a hidden placket, but I'd have to think about that. That'll keep me up.
Okay. How much yardage for the jacket?
I think the most yardage it takes is 2 5/8, and some sizes are maybe 2 1/2, something like that. But 2 5/8 is what will be in the kit.
Mm-hmm. Are the plaids different or the same plaid in different colors?
4 of the plaids are the same, different colorways. The 5th plaid is the black and white is a little different texture. It's a little drapier, a little different. We didn't care for the black version of the one that matched the other 4. So we switched to a different company and different look, and it's a little different. It's a little drapier. And it's linen and something else. It's not pure linen, I don't believe. But yeah, all the, and we have all of these in for the February project, so we're ready to roll on the kits for both January and February, and most of the kits are ready for March, except for a couple of colorways. You know, we're in the same issue as the rest of the world. We're waiting on something, some container somewhere, I suppose. The other thing that's happening that we're getting a lot of extra surcharges now on fabrics. They're just called COVID shipping surcharges, which I find interesting. And so, I don't know. We haven't raised our prices yet, but maybe coming just a little bit, because these prices are getting kind of outrageous at the other end of getting them here. All of our fabrics come from overseas, so unfortunately.
And what's the content of that fabric for the jacket?
This is cotton, 100% cotton. I think. Pretty sure it is. Maybe Betsy can.
I think it has linen in it too.
Does it have linen in it?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Betsy can verify that. Cotton and linen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So for the rolled hem, is there going to be isocord packages available or woolly nylon?
No. We're using regular thread.
What's the weight of the jacket? Could it be used as a blouse?
Yes, I think it could definitely be used as a blouse. The jacket is very lightweight. It's super drapey, lightweight. I think it's can work for a lot of different climates. You know, this is the kind of thing I could put over a sweater, a turtleneck. I could wear it over a shell. I could wear it by itself.
Does the rolled hem on the jacket leave thread showing?
No, not if it's done properly, which is what I'll talk about.
I'm assuming the buttons are included with the kits?
Buttons are included in the kits. Yep, 5 buttons. All different, of course, for the 5 different color options.
Let's see. Can we have a close-up of the collar? Okay. Can you show the t-shirt again? They're interested in seeing the back.
Okay. So these are 3 differently shaped pieces. So this is a curve this way, and then these have sort of have convex and concave coming together. So it creates this different shape, this sort of blousey effect in the back. And it's longer in the back than the front.
Okay. All right, and so we did have a couple more questions on the Koos jacket. So back to the bias sleeve question. How much yardage do you add to a pattern if you want to make bias sleeves?
I don't know if I know the answer to that, but you know, you would be smart in adding 1 sleeve length, which is usually around 22, 24 inches. I doubt if you need that much, but I think it would depend on the layout of the whole thing. But for sure, if you can lay them on the vertical rather than planning to lay them side by side, you might need 1 more sleeve length.
And if you do the sleeve on the bias, does it place the sleeve cap more on a straight of grain, and does it make it more difficult to ease?
No, I think it's no. I've put in a few bias sleeves, and I don't recall any issues that were any more awful than putting in a regular sleeve. I think it's probably easier because it would really meld and mold. It's not. If you're thinking that straight of grain through there, it's still not quite. So there's I think opportunities for melding and molding a sleeve. Now, just out of a side note, if you're ever studying an Armani sleeve, the ease is not in the cap, it's underneath.
Okay, I don't see anything else.
Okay. All right, so this week, all the fabrics that I have mentioned are on sale. Now, the furs are 30% off. Am I right about that?
Yes.
But the other fabrics are
15.
15. Okay, that's what I thought. All right. And the ultra suedes are on sale as well. Then we have the 2 patterns, the Crossroads pattern, which is a download, and the Chicago pattern, which is a print pattern. They're on sale. And we have 2 tutorials on sale. We have one called 3 Bias Bindings that does teach you how to do this edging. And we have the So Confident Series 9 4th Quarter Compendium, which talks about how to make the fur jacket and a couple of other variations of the Crossroads as well. So that's this week. All right. All right, well, we're down on the downhill to the more serious holiday days, so I hope you have a pleasant and somewhat relaxing next week. I will be here next week, believe it or not, even before Christmas, and I'm even going to be here after Christmas. So I hope to see you for the next couple of Tuesdays. And if you have any more questions about So Confident, please feel free to reach out to us either by phone or email. We're here to answer questions. Hope you'll join us. It's been a super successful program for us, and it's where we put a lot of our creative energies. So would love to see you on that, on the Facebook page and the Q&As, and then of course I hope to see you for the Facebook Lives on Tuesdays. So see you.